Thrilled to be here. My great-grandfather, D.R.C. Brown, came to Aspen in the 1880s and sold tools to the miners on Ajax Mountain. And my grandparents ranched south of Carbondale for over 60 years. And this has always been my place. Uh, I've lived, well, and it's been my place, but never my work until now. I've lived all over. I've lived in Africa. For the last 13 years, I've worked for tribal governments. And tribal governments often speak and plan for the next 7 generations. That's a common thing to hear in the work that I've done for over a decade. So that perspective is really helpful now in the work that I'm doing for AVLT. As a kid, I remember driving with my dad and staring out at horse pasture that's now Whole Foods. And he told me that when I was a grown up, there would be thousands more cars traveling on Highway 82. He said this valley is going to be full of people. And I remember thinking, what does that look like? Where will they fit? Where will they live? And what will happen? I just remember that, and I remember it really profoundly all the time now in my new job as stewardship director at Aspen Valley Land Trust. I feel like my arrival at AVLT is timely, it's fortunate, and it's orbital because I'm now driving my children on the same roads where I was driven as a child. And it's a very different place, but it's the same place. So I think that I'm really excited to be here, to be doing this work in a place that I'm rooted in, that I love, but now I have skin in the game and I'm actually getting to work with all of you I know I'm new here, but I'm old here. I'm like actually getting to do this work that a lot of you have been doing for a long time. And I know I have a lot to learn from you, which I'm really excited to learn. So I guess I just want to wrap up and say that I'm excited to meet all of you. I know I haven't met all of you yet, but to meet as many of you as I can and join you on this road and do this work that you have been doing for a long time. So thank you all so much for the conservation work you've done, and I'm excited to now be a part of it. And now I get to introduce the real speaker tonight. Frank Daly is a rancher who conserved land with AVLT in 2006. He owns the conserved Dry Elk Valley Ranch in Silt, and he serves on the board of directors of Colorado Cattlemen's Agricultural Land Trust. Frank is deeply rooted and committed to this community, to conservation, and to our collective future. So please join me in welcoming Frank.
Well, one thing for certain, I definitely can't match Annie's roots. That is incredible. And I did have the privilege of knowing your grandpa, Bob Perry. And one thing I'll always remember about Bob, even when he was in his last few years, he had a grip like a vice. I always had to kind of cringe when he would shake my hand. But what a man he was, and what a terrific testament to the ranching community. So anyway, Suzanne asked me to say a few words, so I guess a lot of what I have to say will be preaching to the choir, which is great. I love preaching to the choir. So one of my main concerns with conservation easements is I think there's 2 components there. We need to worry about conserving the ground, and we also need to worry about conserving the families and the ranchers who steward and take care of that ground. And that's not always possible. There's not always heirs to take over. But to me, whenever that's a possibility, we need to do everything we can to make that happen. And the conservation easements can be a huge piece to that puzzle. Oftentimes you can settle things with heirs, with maybe there's a off-farm sibling that wants to be somewhere else and not having to do with the ranch. If you put a conservation easement on, then possibly they can be taken care of with the proceeds from the easement. So the one thing I really don't want to see is a day when all of our beautiful ranches are owned by non-ag people, and the ag people are merely sharecroppers and hired men. That's something I think we really need to avoid and do all we can to keep the families on the land, because they're the ones that know how to take care of it. They're the ones that are passionate about it, and you're not going to get that from going to ag business school or someplace like that. It has to be something that's pretty much in your blood. Not to say that there aren't people that didn't grow up on ranches that fit right in. There's plenty of those too, but it's uh, it's kind of a heavy lift for them to get into the ranching mode, especially with today's prices, which is another place where the easements can come in to help young folks get started. Go buy a piece of ground and put an easement on it and be able to use those proceeds to help lower your payments or possibly add some equipment or more cattle or something like that. And I really, we put an easement on one of our ranches in 2006, and we ended up selling that in 2020, 18 or 20, to a young ranching family. And due to the fact that we had put an easement on it and been able to pull some of the equity out in prior years, we were able to sell them the property at a little bit of a discount and help them get started. Then we turned around and bought another ranch that already had an easement on it, and kind of the same thing applied there. The prior owners had put an easement on, had pulled some of the equity out in their easement, and were able to sell it to us at a reduced price. So that's a couple examples of how these things can really work to keep the ranching community going. So I guess I really don't have a lot more to say. I didn't sit down and write a big speech or anything. It's kind of not my game, but glad to see you all here and really appreciate all your support, and hope you have a good rest of the evening. Thank you.